So there I was, in this gray conference room that felt too small for the number of people in it. I'm sitting across from 4 men, with 2 men to my left and 1 man to my right. And the volume in the room was loud as they were all brainstorming on the topic. I have something to say, but there's no lull in the conversation. It's a little intimidating, but I'm going to do it. I take a deep breath. I raise my voice to the volume of the room, and I share my idea. But something strange happens. Nothing. Not even a nod of recognition. In that moment, I felt invisible. Almost like I had on an invisibility cloak that I could not shake off. Can you imagine? Got to try again. This time I'm going to do something different. This time, I lower my pitch. I slow down my speech. I don't share my idea. I talk about my experience on this topic and what brought me to this room. And then I share my idea. And this time, I'm heard. Despite 30 years in the high-tech industry and the fact that I'm a senior executive, I still have to prove my credibility on a topic before I can be heard. And this is not an isolated incident. And this is not some meeting that happened a long time ago. This is a meeting that happened in February, just before everybody went home for the pandemic. And it's why I'm here today. I am tired of being the only woman in the room with no allies. I am here to enlist every single one of you to take a pledge to drive for gender equity. How? If you are a man, step into allyship. If you are a woman, step into leadership. Each and every one of you can become an agent of change. By working with intention, by working with purpose, you can make a difference. Like my friend, Jennifer Didier. Jennifer is the CEO of a technical training company. And like me, she was tired of being the only woman in the room, of looking out in her classroom at a sea of men. So Jennifer set aside profit, and she set up a scholarship program to bring free technical training and technical certification to women. And through her single intentional act, she has fundamentally changed the career trajectory for the 70 women who have come through that, and she's just at the beginning. That's what I'm talking about. That's intentional leadership. And I personally have sponsored the creation of 2 organizations, the Women in Technology Network and the Women in Cloud, both dedicated to connecting women and giving them access. And through those organizations, we've been able to touch 20,000 women around the world. 20,000. That sounds like a big number. But in fact, it's just a drop in the bucket compared to what we need. And it's why I'm here. We need to scale. I need each and every one of you to become a force multiplier, to turn 20,000 into 8 million. Why 8 million? Because that's what it will take to get to gender equity in high tech. 8 million. Do you think I'm exaggerating? Let me share some statistics with you. When I started in this industry in 1991, 36% of the computing workforce was women. In 2019, that number had fallen to 27%. It's going in the wrong direction. And it's about to get much worse. 70% of all companies are going through something called a digital transformation. That means they're becoming technology-led. Technology is becoming their products, their services, and their operations. You see that every day. That takes high tech out of the tech industry and into every industry. Retail, manufacturing, financial services, even farming. You see that When you go for shopping, when you go to do your banking, when you reach for entertainment, you reach for technology first. And that in and of itself, that's not a bad thing. What is a bad thing, though, is that the jobs that are being displaced disproportionately impact women and people of color. And that is a trifecta of badness, because that means by percentage, there are fewer women in technology, there are more jobs in technology, and there are more women being displaced by the technology. That is a crisis. We must act. That is not the workforce that you want for your daughters, your mothers, your sisters, your wives. Trust me, I know. I've been here for the last 30 years. You know, I thought by the time my daughter was ready to enter the workforce, things would be dramatically better. Well, my daughter is 21 years old now. And in fact, things are worse. The time to act is now. I need each and every one of you to become an agent of change. And I have 4 ways that you can make a difference. Connect, outreach, mentor, empower. And I'm going to talk about each one of those. Connection. That's about making intentional connections with women in your network. Reaching out and giving women access to you and everyone in your network. You can do that by joining the Women in Technology Network, joining the Women in Cloud, or any one of a dozen other networks designed to give women in business access. By doing so, you become a force multiplier to turn 20,000 into 8 million. 2, outreach. This is about examining your recruiting practices, your hiring practices, your supplier selection practices. When you post a job, do you screen out candidates or do you screen in for diversity? I know within my own organization, when I asked my leaders to stop hiring for expediency and stop hiring people they knew, and to make an intentional action to go outside of our company, to create a diverse candidate pool of high quality talent, and then to have a diverse interview panel, the gender diversity in my organization changed dramatically. And now we're working on diversity across all dimensions. 3, mentor. I would not be where I am today without the many men and women who have mentored me along the way, who have shared with me the value of their successes and their failures, who have helped me avoid those invisible tripwires and unwritten rules of business, and who have lifted me up when my confidence waned. Think about your own mentors. I've had people tell me that 30 minutes I spent with them changed their perspective dramatically. When you mentor, you blaze a trail for others to follow, and you give back. 4, empower. The most impactful thing you can do for another human being is to empower them, is to help create an inclusive environment, to sponsor women, promote women, put women on your board of directors. And do I urge you to do that just because I'm a woman? Well, I mean, I am a little biased. But according to the Boston Consulting Group, organizations with diverse leadership teams have 19% higher profitability. They have greater levels of employee engagement. They have higher levels of customer satisfaction. And that kind of makes sense, right? Because a diverse leadership team is creating products and services that better reflects the diversity of their customer base. And so it is not just good for society, it is good for your business. And it's not as hard as you might think. Creating an inclusive environment is about giving voice to everyone, inviting everyone into the conversation, seeing people, hearing people, making the invisible visible. I want to share with you a story probably of my worst moment of invisibility. Several years ago, I went on a business trip with a male colleague of mine, and we met with a dozen executives, all of them men. In every single one of those meetings, the male executive spoke to my male colleague and not me. And even when I would answer a question, the male executive would turn to my male colleague for affirmation and validation of what I had said, even though I was his senior. That entire trip, I felt like I had on an invisibility cloak that I could not shake off. Creating an inclusive environment is about being an ally. If one of those men had been an ally to me and just seen me, or in that meeting in February, if one of those men had invited me into the conversation by simply asking me what I thought, or heard me the first time, that's allyship. Like my friend Mal McHutchinson, who's the CEO of Interactive IT in Australia. He sponsors an organization called Male Champions for Change, dedicated to driving for gender diversity in high tech. And within his own organization, he has made a commitment to make his cybersecurity practice 50% women. That's intentional leadership. That's working with purpose. That's what I'm talking about. You could start big like Mal or Jennifer, or you could start small by creating an inclusive environment. Whether you start big or you start small, you could start anywhere, just start. Because we need you to be an ally, to be a leader, to be an agent of change. 4 ways that you can make a difference: connect, outreach, mentor, empower. For the sake of your daughters, your mothers, your wives, your sisters, the time to act is now. We need each and every one of you to make a commitment to help a woman be seen, to help a woman be heard, to make the invisible visible. I want you to make a commitment today to become an agent of change and to help a woman to take off her invisibility cloak. Thank you.